Hello there all you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays, where we talk about nature while playing games. My name is Will, and as you can see we are back in Empires of the Undergrowth, and it is now just over a year since this game released into full access, which is absolutely amazing. Oh, and still new things are being added and are being planned. Well, today we are going to continue with the Formica Ereptor ants that have escaped into the wilds, and well, they have just arrived in the Americas, and they are somewhere in the rainforests of South America. So let's jump right in, shall we? Of course, we are going to play a remix of the Harvest mission, and we are going to be playing as our Ereptor colony. However, we cannot actually change from leafcutter ants, so we are just going to have the queen of the leafcutters, and we technically will have the workers of the leafcutters. However, we are not going to use them. Instead, we are going to have workers and soldiers consisting of all kinds of other ants. So no leafcutters are going to actually be used. Instead, our workers are actually going to be the black ants, and our soldiers are going to be the wood ants. We are going to go, of course, for rapid fire. So the Ereptors now have got black ants and wood ants as their main army that will be doing things within the South American jungle. But as for lore-wise how this happened, well, let's look at that, shall we? Arriving in the jungles of South America, the Formica Ereptor queen is establishing a colony. She has managed to find an abandoned ant mound. Well, this ant mound used to have a whole bunch of Atacephalotus ants, the leafcutters. Now, using horizontal gene transfer, this Formica Ereptor queen now takes on the ability of the Ata ants to do agriculture, to harvest leaves and use it to grow fungus to sustain the colony. Now, these ants now have no use for the ants that were in the nest already. They have swiftly killed any remaining Ata workers and have now successfully taken over this old nest. So yes, there we go. Okay, so today we will talk a bit about how agriculture in ants came to be. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Just going to start up our colony. Of course, the colony itself is going to function very similar to how the colonies usually function, the Ata ants usually function. We are going to have our leaf deposit area, and we are going to have a latrine site. The latrine site I'm going to have way off in the distance. Now, starting out like this is not a great strategy, because, well, we only have one worker at the moment. Now, sure, we can send that worker out into the big bad world to go and harvest leaves, but that is not going to be a very good strategy. Instead, we are just going to get a few more of these dusky ants over here of the Formica fusca. And once we have a few more, we are going to send them out into the big bad world. However, we do have the other colony, the other Atacephalotus colony, actually starting to collect leaves. So we are going to have to do this sooner rather than later, I'm afraid. Additionally, we have now also run out of leaves in the colony itself. So out we go into the big bad world to try and get some leaves. Finally, a third dusky ant will join the army that is marching above. Well, luckily, all the ants have the ability to go and harvest the leaves over here. So you don't need leafcutter ants in order to actually go and harvest the leaves. Instead, our dusky ants here can still collect leaf parts and bring it back to the colony. And that's because, well, a lot of ants, their mandibles are perfectly suited for cutting leaves. Now, trapjaw ants, maybe not, and a few other ants, probably not. But the dusky ants here, well, their mandibles definitely would be perfect for cutting these leaves and actually taking it back to the colony. It's just that they haven't developed agriculture like the Ata ants have. Now, with the leafcutter ants actually having developed agriculture, it really is amazing. It most likely started with the ants collecting the fungus and feeding mostly on the fungus that they ended up cultivating or ended up domesticating and growing in their colonies. And then as time went on, that relationship developed into a much closer relationship. And the ants became more dependent on the fungus, and the fungus became more dependent on the ants for their own survival. And in the end, the leafcutter ants are basically dependent on the fungus for their survival, and the fungus are basically entirely dependent on the ants for their survival. But this is only developed in a few species of ants, and then of course in some termites as well. Not all termites will be farmers, and very few ants are actually farmers. We're just going to have to look out because, well, we've got this beautiful, beautiful iridescent jumping spider over there. Oh, jumping spiders really are just some of my favorites. I mean, look at that. And of course, now with one of the recent updates, the rainforest animals are just looking absolutely spectacular. I mean, with the forward-facing eyes there, those, of course, the jumping spider here will use to catch their prey. Excellent, excellent eyesight. And then the eyes here on the side, they will use that to get a bit better view, almost 360 degrees, that they will have vision. So they can almost see behind them, but just directly behind them, they can't actually see. But all around here, it's blurry vision. It's like your peripheral vision, but then the eyes here in front, excellent, excellent color vision that they will have, and not blurry at all. So really, really sharply in focus. Now, unfortunately, I do think our ants are going to be in danger. Ooh, okay, it is avoiding. Okay, great stuff. It did leave us alone there. That is great. We don't have a lot of ants yet, and we can't really afford to lose any ants at the moment. Because, well, we are very, very slowly building up. I mean, the opponents are about 10% done, and we have got almost 200 leaves that we have collected. So, yeah, we really need to pick up speed here. The jumping spider, though, is making things a little bit more challenging. Okay, no, he's going off. Okay, that's great. And slowly but surely, our Formica Ereptor colony is building up speed. Now, normally, of course, this mission is a bit of intra-specific competition with the leafcutters competing against other leafcutter ants. Now, of course, it is inter-specific competition with the Formica Ereptors competing against leafcutter ants. So it's a little bit of a difference from what we normally had to do here. And from what I have seen and heard, the leafcutter ants are actually a little bit poorer in terms of survival than our Formica Ereptor ants would be. So we are going to hopefully be able to take them on a bit and show them who's the new boss of the rainforest biome here. And that, of course, makes invasive species so dangerous, where if they are better adapted or perhaps more aggressive, or just don't have natural predators that the indigenous or the local ants have, they are very easily able to just get rid of their competition and outcompete their competition. And that is most likely what we as the Ereptors will be doing. Now, our colony is now finally going to also make some wood ants. Now, these wood ants will be there not to collect leaves, but will be there for protection. So they are going to be the main army of this colony. That is the idea, at least. And the first task will, of course, be to remove whatever is hiding over here. Most likely a rove beetle larva. Yes, indeed, a rove beetle larva. They are no match for our wood ant soldiers. And having cleared this area now of this old nest that they now occupy, the little minimum workers that somehow are serving this new queen are carrying on doing their duties and more easily able to move from one area of the nest to the others. Now, this jumping spider is a bit of a pain in the butt, so we are going to have to get rid of it. And to do that, we are going to bring everybody to the fore. Wood ants and dusky ants, finish it. And voila, just like that. Now, I did just say that the wood ants are not going to be collecting food, but yet, yeah, they are. There is no danger at the moment, so they may as well go and collect some food for us. The more mandibles we have cutting away at the vegetation, the better for us. And look at those big leaves there that are carrying around. Ants really are immensely strong for their size. And one problem with having the latrine site over here so close to the wood ants here is that we won't be able to upgrade these as much as we would like to. They have got a -1 because of the proximity to the toxic waste over here. And as I mentioned when we were playing as the leafcutter ants, usually there are some individuals that are designated as latrine workers. They are not allowed to mingle with the rest of the colony. You can see here the ones that actually are doing the work here. Well, they are unfortunately diseased in essence now, so technically they will be spreading disease. So usually some individuals are designated as the refuse workers, and they're not allowed to mingle with the rest of the colony, which is actually, kind of sad. They have a very short lifespan. They're basically doomed from the moment they start working in that latrine, in the refuse dump, in essence, of the colony. Now, our workers actually have done what they can in this area, so off we go to another area. The utter ants, on the other hand, they are doing really well. They have collected almost 4,000, but we are slowly but surely creeping up on them. And in fact, soon we should be able to surpass them. We just first have to get rid of some of the other inhabitants of this old nest, like this velvet worm over here. Now, velvet worms actually very often are found in old termite mounds. They do love running around in there or chilling in there. So I'm not surprised that we do have a velvet worm, or did have one, over here. We may have some more over to this side. We're just really excavating like it's going out of fashion. We want to get rid of all the other inhabitants here so that we can work in peace and expand our empire a bit. There we go, another rove beetle, 2 rove beetle larvae. Yeah, they are no match. No match for us. And there's another velvet worm. Again, just with bombardment by the wood ants, really don't stand a chance. Now we've got a massive area that we can put our workers. Of course, for every ant that we actually make here, we do get one of these minim as well that are hiding away from the previous regime, from the leafcutters that the Formica Ereptors have replaced over here. I do wonder whether that means that these little minim workers of the leafcutter ants are technically now social parasites, because, well, they are living in a nest that is no longer their own, yet they are protected against other threats, and they are just chilling. They are getting food, they are getting everything they need. They're just not actually in the right species nest. And in fact, there are a whole bunch of species of ants that are social parasites like this, would be living in the nest of other ants, but in this case, maybe not a parasite, maybe a mutualist, because they're moving the waste around, they're moving leaves around, they're doing their thing, actually contributing to the Ereptor colony's survival. And to me, that means that it's not actually a parasite. It is more of a mutualistic relationship here. Oh, we had encountered a mantis here, a leaf mimic mantis. However, it was no match for our horde of ants over here. However, yeah, there we go. So unfortunately, our leafcutter ants, our rivals, are moving into the same area as we are. So this is not great. So what we are going to do is we are going to move all our ants over here. We are defending it. We are defending our foraging spot against these Cephalotus ants here, and hopefully we can actually push them away. And if we can, this becomes our feeding grounds, because we had to move to a more productive area, and we are in fact catching up to them. That is absolutely marvelous. So what we are going to do is we're going to have one group of ants just defending this choke point over here against the ants. I think we've won. Yeah, we've driven them off. I was going to say we can actually choke them over here and then have another harvesting group actually doing the work and collecting them. However, all our ants can actually come back and feed over here, because for now the ants over here are focusing on a site up here. It's actually a better site than where we are, so we should actually be chasing them away from here. Maybe we'll do that in a moment.
A few moments later.
Now the leafcutters are really intending to move into this area where we currently are foraging. I was going to move away, but stuff it. This is our territory. We are going to stand our ground. What we are going to do is we're going to set up a defensive network over here. The third group of ants over here will be protecting this feeding ground of ours, this leaf harvesting ground of ours, against the that are trying to come in and establish themselves in this feeding area over here. And there we go. We actually have surpassed the opponents, the colony to our north. Oh, what have we got? Oh, trapjaw ants coming into our nest here. Well, you're not going to survive. Not for long, at least. Okay, here we go. Some large moving in. The black ants doing their best. The dusky ants doing their best to defend or to keep the leafcutters at bay. And then, of course, the wood ants spraying them with formic acid. We still have this one annoying little Odontomachus trying to ruin our day. We're just going to move some of our wood ants over here to just come and annoy it. Oh, the are moving in with force here. And they are overrunning our poor dusky ants here. So you know what? You've got to know when to count your losses. And that's what we are going to do now. We are going to rather focus on taking on this one trapjaw ant, Odontomachus, that is screwing around a bit with us here. And it is going to die momentarily. Yeah, there we go. It is dead. Finally, it is dead. Now, we technically don't have workers apart from the 7 workers that came with the nest that are still kind of slaving away here. But that is alright, I think. Oh, I think these leafcutters are coming for our colony. Yes, indeed they are. Here they come. They've got some mages, and level 3 mages at that. Let's see how they do against some of our Ereptors. There we go. Oh my goodness me, they just melt before the Formica rufus. They stand no chance. And maybe those try to invade us because, well, look at that. We are very, very close to officially winning. But you know what? Winning by collecting the most leaves is not what this is all about. Instead, these their days are numbered. And that's exactly what would happen if you have got invasive species. Once they get a foothold, well, good luck, first of all, eradicating them. And secondly, withstanding their invasion. Because here our Ereptors have now learned to carry leaves around. They have learned to cultivate fungus. And now they are just set to dominate the world. because there we go. We have collected 10,000. And this Formica Ereptor colony now is set to dominate the rainforest. Having gained a foothold in the New World, they will now spread far and wide. Of course, soon they will be encountering the army ants, and who knows how that will go. But for now, this colony has been very, very successful. Of course, as mentioned, just winning is not enough. We have to eradicate our competitors. Now, technically, having encountered the Atacephalotus ants in the field, our colony can now actually incorporate some leafcutter workers just to help with the tasks around the nest, because, yeah, it's getting kind of ridiculous. So now, for the first time, the Formica Ereptors are actually incorporating workers of the ants in whose nest they have been living this entire time. And a second time, the Atacephalotus ants are mobilizing. There's an army that has been bred for war, and they will not stop until they have defeated the invaders, till the Formica Ereptors are dead at their legs. Unfortunately, they will find we do not give up easily. Instead, we are very, very persistent and resistant to any attacks by inferior species. And instead, we will now start mounting a counter-offensive. Gathering in the choke point here where the Atacephalotus ants are passing through, we are trying to cut them off from their leaf supply. If we can starve this colony out, while we continue collecting food, there's nothing they will be able to do against us. Unfortunately, the defense is a little bit stronger than this Ereptor colony anticipated. Nonetheless, they are, slowly but surely, breaking them down. But now the Atacephalotus have decided to rather gather food to the east of their nest. And they are responding in mass. We'll see whether this is enough to save the Ata ants from extinction. Well, they did do better than I expected. So maybe it's time to bring our entire army to bear. And here they come. And now, with the superior numbers, the Ereptors are simply sweeping over the Atacephalotus. They respond with an army of their own. However, reinforcements arrive for the Ereptors, and this is a battle for the ages. I mean, look at that. The mandibles of the Atacephalotus being used to tear the Formica Ereptor ants apart. But the Formica Ereptors, their wood ants in their colony, spraying formic acid down upon the Atacephalotus as the Formica fuscas are just slowly but surely tearing the Ata ants apart. And there we go, the last remnants of the colony marching forth to try and gather some food to save their colony from extinction. But I think this is too little, too late. The Ereptors are squeezing the colony for all it is worth. Fighting on two fronts, however, the Ereptors are almost overwhelmed until some more reinforcements arrive from the south. It really is just a matter of time before the Atacephalotus ants here are completely overwhelmed. Running out of resources, they really are doomed. All the while the Formica Ereptors are just carrying back some of the spoils of war to feed their own colony. This really is interference competition at its best. Trying to exclude the Atacephalotus from their own foraging grounds, and instead using those resources for themselves, the Formica Ereptors here are really showing interference competition at its best. With the stranglehold the Ereptors have on the Atacephalotus, time and time again they try to break out, try to break free to the south, try to break out to the east, never truly succeeding. Every time they are met with a fierce Formica Ereptors, every time they are beaten back, retreating back into their nests. And that is a strategy that Ata would use if they are facing superior threats such as army ants, for example. A lot of these species retreat into their nest and try to barricade it. They would actually take little pebbles and mud and stuff and try to block the entrances, preventing the other ants from gaining entrance to their nest. However, these ones are not doing it, and we will soon be flooding their nests. We are just waiting for the numbers to dwindle enough. I think it is time. These ants, these Atas, are now coming through in drips and drabs. Sometimes there are some larger ants coming through, some majors, but they retreat shortly after arriving in the outside world. Realizing the time is near, the Ereptors make a dash for it. breaking into the nest, into the mound of the Cephalotus ants. They are going straight for the queen. They stand no chance. Their defenses are overwhelmed. The last few defenders of the queen are doing their last stand. However, their attempts are futile, and soon the queen is dead. And so a colony that may have stood here for years or decades finally falls to the Formica Ereptors, the invaders from across the seas. And this is where I will also be leaving you for today, everybody. So thank you very much for joining us on a little adventure. Next time we're going to have a few other species to talk about as we encounter the army ants and try to survive against them. Well, the Cephalotus here really not a match for us, but the army ants, well, they very well may be a match for us. We'll find out next time. And until then, everybody, stay safe. See you all soon. Cheers.